Hi boys and girls. Hi grown-ups, it's Miss Dawn and I'm here today to talk to you about the kinds of things that I find when I go to the beach. So I like to go to the beach at Rehoboth Beach, and when I'm on the beach I like to explore. So sometimes I sit and read my book and swim in the ocean, but sometimes I like to explore and see all the things I can find. So I want to talk to you about those things. So when I'm at the beach, I like to explore. I dig in the sand. I have a shovel and a bucket and I have a sieve. So I like to dig in the sand and see what kinds of things I can find. I also like to go to the edge of the water where the waves are crashing onto the beach. And because that digs up the sand, then I can find all kinds of interesting things right along the edge of the water. So everything that I like to collect things when I'm there, and I like to bring those things home, but I want you to know that I never bring something home that is living. So when I explore at the beach, I often find things that used to be alive, or things that are left from an animal that used to be alive, but I don't bring the live animals home. If I find something that's living, I leave it in the sand or I throw it back into the ocean. So when I get home, I like to research what I found. So I like to read books from the library or go online and do research and try to figure out what it is that I found. So if I find shells, I want to figure out what kind of animals lived inside of those shells. So I'm really curious about that. And I want to tell you about some things that I have found that I've collected, and I want to show you some pictures of those things. So I've found the shells of mollusks, and mollusks, pardon me, that's a hard word to say. They're animals that are invertebrates. So you and I, we have a backbone back here. Our backbone helps us to be able to sit up straight, and it helps us as we walk. But an invertebrate does not have a backbone. So some examples are scallops and slugs and snails. They are invertebrates. They don't have a backbone like you and I do. And I also have found the shells of bivalve mollusks. So animals that have shells that are bivalve, they have two shells. So I'm going to show you some clam shells. So a bivalve has the two shells that open like this. And I've also found some whelk shells. And a whelk is a mollusk, and it's a large marine snail. So I've never found a living mollusk, but I've found their shells, and I've also found their egg casings that they leave behind. And I've seen a skate. So a skate is a fish. It looks like that, and I've never been able to get a picture of one when it was in the ocean. I wasn't quick enough, but I've seen them in the ocean, and I've also found their egg, the case in which they lay their babies. So I'm going to show one of those to you. And I also found a seahorse once with my daughter Emily. She actually found it, and it was very sad. It was no longer alive. We found it in the sand. I think it had been dead for a while. It was a tiny seahorse, so I have that to show to you too. So I took a picture of a bunch of the things that I found, and I want to show those things to you now. So I'm going to do that. So let's see. So here we have all the things that I found, and I'm going to hold them up and I'm going to show them to you. So here are some clam shells. So as you can see, with a bivalve, they would open and shut like this. So again, I found the shells on the beach. The clam was no longer in there, so the clam was no longer living, but these are the shells that washed up on the beach. And then I also find scallop shells. I think these are really pretty. So I find these shells, I like to collect them, and sometimes I think they're fun to dig in the sand, and I also use them to like put on my dresser. Sometimes I put my earrings in them. So these are fun to collect. It's a scallop shell. And then this is an egg case from a skate. So I want to go back and show you. That's a skate, and it's a member of the ray family. So this is, you can see it's open. That is where the baby was. So it was inside of this egg case. And so I found this on the beach, and so the baby was no longer in it. And then I want to show you, oh, here's a shell called a jingle shell, and it's shiny and small, and they're called jingle shells because when you have a bunch of them together and you shake them, they make a jingling sound. I only have one, but I'll keep looking for more. And then this is the shell from a whelk. So I don't have a full whelk shell, but this is the inside. So I want to go back. So that's what the animal looks like that's inside of the shell. So I've never found one where the animal is still inside of it. I've only found the shell on part of a broken shell on the beach, but I did find the egg casings. So this is the egg casing from a whelk. I found this on the beach, and it was dry, so it was on the sand and had washed up onto the sand and had gotten dry. If it were still wet when I found it, I would have thrown it back into the ocean, but it was dry, so I knew it was okay for me to bring it home. And then I also have oyster, lots of oyster shells, and so they fit together like this also. So these are from oysters. And this little tiny shell is called a cockle shell. It's an itty bitty shell, also a bivalve, but I only found one of them so far. So I wanted to show this one to you. And then I also wanted to show you this, lastly, this little seahorse. And so Emily found this seahorse. It was washed up onto the sand. It was no longer alive. Again, if it were still living, we would have put it right back into the ocean. But we found it on the sand, and it had died, and it was dry, actually. It was really hot that day. So when Emily found it, she asked if we could bring it home, and I said yes, because it wasn't living anymore. And I actually have had it for several years, so I've been able to show it to preschoolers in the classes that I've taught. So I wanted to show it to you today. And I want to show you what I learned about some of the animals. So I learned that a seahorse is a fish, and that when seahorses are together in the ocean, they often swim together with their tails hooked. So I thought that was really interesting. So boys and girls, thank you for listening. Thank you, grown-ups. And I'll show you again all the things that I've collected, and I'll keep collecting. I can't do it now because beaches are closed, but what I'll do, I promise once beaches are back open, I'll be back out to collect and look, and I'll share the things with you that I find. I miss you, and I hope that you are well. Take care. I hope to see you very soon. Bye.